voice of God calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate our lives ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters,
great masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
we humbly bow before thee.
we humbly bow before thee.
Bless us,
Bless us
with ever deeper receptivity,
with ever deeper receptivity,
concentration,
concentration,
discrimination,
discrimination,
devotion,
devotion,
attunement to your will,
attunement to your will,
that we may manifest in our lives
that we may manifest in our lives
your blessing,
your blessing,
your bliss,
your bliss,
your grace,
your grace,
and share it with all.
and share it with all.
Om. Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Morning, friends. Have a seat. We're going to start with us. Home is a green hill, home is a wind, blowing each way, you'll far, far away. Home is the knowledge, heaven is near. Home's the end of the
this week from Affirmations for Self-Healing. Concentration. Concentration is the secret of success in every undertaking. Without concentration, thoughts, energy, inspiration, purpose, all one's inner forces become scattered. Concentration is the calm focus of one's full attention on the purpose at hand. Concentration means more than mental effort. It means channeling your heart's feelings, your faith, and your deep aspirations into whatever you are doing. In that way, even the little things in life can become rich with meaning. Concentration should not involve mental strain. When you really want something, it is difficult not to think about it. Concentrate with interest on whatever you do, and you will find yourself absorbed in it. And let's affirm together first in a strong voice. Whatever I do in life,
Whatever I do in life,
I give it my full attention.
I give it my full attention.
Like a laser beam beam.
Like a laser beam.
I burn before me.
I burn before me.
All problems.
All problems.
All obstructions.
All obstructions.
Now taking it a little more softer inside. Whatever I do in life.
Whatever I do in life.
I give it my full attention.
I give it my full attention.
Like a laser beam.
Like a laser beam.
I burn before me.
I burn before me.
All problems.
All problems.
All obstructions.
All obstructions.
Now in a whisper, but with even deeper focus and concentration, whatever I do in life,
Whatever I do in life.
I give it my full attention.
I give it my full attention.
Like a laser beam.
Like a laser beam.
I burn before me.
I burn before me.
All problems.
All problems.
All
All
obstructions.
obstructions.
And now silently, mentally, with the laser beam of your consciousness, whatever I do in life, I give it my full attention. Like a laser beam, I burn before me all problems, all obstructions. Again, broadcasting it at the spiritual eye. Whatever I do in life, I give it my full attention. Like a laser beam, I burn from before me all problems, all obstructions. And pray silently with me. Help me to see thee, Lord, as the scriptures describe thee, the most relishable. Help me to concentrate on thee, my gaze, my love, my aspirations, my entire being. Om. Peace. Amen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Sunday. Welcome to those in the back and those joining online. My name is Dharmadevi and this is Narayan, and we're very happy to be with you. I'm reading to you from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. And this week's topic, how democratic is truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to a control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airliner is limited to those with the necessary knowledge for operating them, and also to those with the proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it and who might even mock it. True, by mocking the truth, he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers, but then such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again, true, the clever doubter's misrepresentation of those truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker really is sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will, as all people must, eventually, to the light. Thus, the scriptures advise not secrecy, but discretion in sharing the truth. Jesus Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. And Sri Krishna says in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
I want to share from Whispers from Eternity, Master's prayer demand. I baptize myself in the waters of my tears of love. Through long, winding pathways of self-doubt, fording mighty rivers that separated thee from me, trudging over endless wastes of barren lives, tossing dangerously on the rapids of many ambitions, arduously climbing steep mountain trails of desire, and carefully extricating myself from whirlpools of alternating sadness and hilarity. At last, I have reached my journey's end. I look upon all those past travails with joy. Every struggle, every past agony has produced a flowing spring of joyous, grateful tears. In the sacred waters of those tears, I baptize myself daily with deep love for thee. I was just reading one of Swami's books the other day. It's one called Religion in the New Age. Some of you may have read it or know of it. But in there, he has this same expression that everything that happens to us in life, all the pains, all the seeming tragedies, all the seeming successes in our lives, that all of them, if we can hold that pole star, if we can hold that remembrance of God, that what will come forth, the song that will pour forth from our heart, will be a song of unceasing gratitude and bliss. Isn't that something to meditate on? That really, the goal, it's like Swami, years ago, some of you might recall, we had these billboards of Swami when he was giving some of the talks in LA, and it was a picture of Swami, and it said, the goal of life is bliss. And that if we can recall and remember that that's what we're really after, that everything in that context makes much more sense. Now, this is a really important topic this morning about how democratic is truth, because we're an enthusiastic bunch of people. We like to dance, we like to sing, we're very open, and we like, with Swamiji's example, we love to share. But this is counsel on using discretion in how and to who we share with, and to what degree we share to those individuals. It's very important. What was the reading talking about not throwing your pearls before swine, but before that about dogs as well, right? And Dharmadevi was reminding me years ago, some of you know Vanamali Devi, this beautiful saint from India. She's a friend of Ananda. She's a Krishna Bhakti. She has an ashram in Rishikesh. And one time, many years ago, 5, 6 years ago, she came to LA and we hosted her at the ashram and she gave some programs. And every morning she would do puja. So she was doing a puja to Vishnu, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. You know, in India, there's just one God. There's just one, it's just that one bliss. But remember, it takes on many names. And so she was doing this puja, and then at the end of the puja with the fruits, she had a banana. She offered a banana to our little dog, Kali. So she wasn't, Kali was included in that self-offering. But the important thing for us to remember here is, yes, all of us are equally the same. We all are, in essence, the soul. But not everyone is in the same point in their journey to the realization of their soul potential. So the masters are reminding us that it's important, because what happens if you try to jam down somebody's throat something that they don't want or they're not ready for? Imagine if you were in grade school, you're learning math from mom, and you don't really like math, you'd rather be outside playing, and then all of a sudden one of mom's friends comes over who's a calculus teacher, and he's really enthusiastic about calculus, and he's like, but you're gonna love this, look at this calculus proof, and he goes into it, and your eyes glaze over, and you're like, oh my God, I hate math. And for the rest of your life, you hate math. That's what happens when I remember when I first found Autobiography of the Yogi, I was so enthusiastic, right? Uber enthusiastic. I bought some, and I was working in financial markets at the time, and even I gave a few to people at my work and to a couple of family members. You know, it went over like it went over like a Led Zeppelin. Not the good, not the real Led Zeppelin. So it's important though, because then people will have that reaction, right? And like Swami is saying in the reading here, it will reinforce their self-doubt. It will reinforce their pushing away the truth. So Swami was a master at this, of waiting until people were ready, right? Is it true? Is it the truth? But is this person ready to hear it? There was one person in the community many years ago that everyone saw this one particular issue and problem this person had. And they said, Swami, can you please talk to this person? 3 years went by. And then he saw the opening, and then he had the conversation with that person. And he said later, because they weren't ready to hear it. Right? And this is the way that the masters work. I would love for you to perhaps just remember this one thing from today, what Master said. What comes of itself, let it come. Such a simple phrase, so much wisdom. Because when the soul is ready, the soul starts coming. And the soul starts asking for more. And then more. And it's not like Divine Mother doesn't have a royal straight flush under her cards to show. She does. She's got a great bounty of love, of joy, of bliss to share. But the soul, when the soul is ready, it will begin to ask those questions. That's why Master said when at first you get a little bit desirous, what happens? You start reading books. Oh, this is interesting. And you become a little bit of an armchair philosopher. I can talk, you can talk, right? We can talk. And then you get a little bit more serious, Master said, and then God will send you teachers or people who point you in a certain direction. He said, but when you get very earnest, this is where we all are. When you get very earnest in that quest for truth, then he sends you a guru. Right? And the gurus, remember, many saints in India don't speak, or they speak very little. At the end of Anandamoyi Ma's life, she spoke very little. There's this beautiful documentary Dharmadevi and I saw on Anandamoyi Ma. It's free on YouTube, Ma and Me. It's very inspiring. But at the end of her life, people doing kirtan and talk about, what comes of itself, let it come. And she had this, it was almost like a water gun of blessings. And she was like just shooting holy water at people. They wanted that blessing, right? But this was a small group of people that were drawn to her. They wanted that blessing. For us, when people come, and because all of us are serving in different ways, let's be sensitive to where people are at. Try to, like Sri Yukteswar said, don't listen to the words. Try and listen to the meaning, the feeling, the vibration. What is it that this soul is actually asking? What is it that they actually are yearning for? And then you can offer to them. Dharmadevi mentioned we were visiting a friend in jail yesterday, and we had got up so early to get there and do all of it that I hadn't energized. So I said, well, let's energize, because we were waiting outside before we would go in. And I'm not the best example of energization right now. But it's still, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. You can do anything, right? The masters can do anything through you. So I said, so we just started energizing just between ourselves and another friend. And then in the middle, or towards the end, this woman came over and said, oh, I noticed that you were doing some kind of exercises. What is it are you doing? And here it was that she was interested. We didn't go to her, we just were off to ourselves, but there was something that attracted her to us. And here it was, her son had been practicing yoga, and her son was going through anxiety, and she was helpful. And Dharmadevi just had a sweet exchange with her. She didn't say, well, here's my card, sign up, come to the temple. She just made a sweet offering to her. That's how the masters are, right? They'll give as much as we're ready for. And then when we're ready for more, don't worry. They have more to give. They have much more to give. But it's important for us to remember, too, that when we want to embody and be a channel, an instrument for the masters, that we try to do it from that center of truth, from our being out. And do you remember that story of the Buddha? It's one of my most favorite stories, that when he sat down there underneath the Bodhi tree and said, I will not move from this spot until I have realized the truth of my being, the truth of life. Right? And then he had that enlightenment. And when he got up, and just when he began to walk, that was his first sermon, without saying anything. And his disciples, who weren't his disciples yet at the time, but his first few sadhus and ascetics, they saw him. They could feel the presence of God. And that was his first talk, so to speak. Right? It was the emanation of God from within him. So if we can hold on to that, that's why it's so important that the first thing to be discretionary in the sharing of our truth is we can share it with all. We can radiate the love and the blessings of God to everyone. And then as souls, just like Ramakrishna said, that when the bumblebee makes a lot of noise around the flower, right? But then when he gets to that nectar, he goes quiet. Some people will make a lot of noise, but if you can be like that flower for people, that you're emanating sweetness, you're emanating kindness, you're emanating gentleness, and that soul will follow. They'll follow that trail. We don't have to be concerned. We have all these classes and things like that, and step 1 and step 2 and step 3. And I love organization. I like to be orderly. But we have to remember the greatest organization, the greatest order is through the magnetism of God's love. She has it under control. If we can just come to this point where we say that, well, I have come of my own. This soul will come of their own as well. And that I can be a channel. I can just be a little gardenia. I can be a daffodil. I can be a rose. You look at these. Why are we inspired when we just look at a flower? It doesn't what is God telling us? He is telling us that it's that through the sun and the moon and the stars, like we say in the festival, through all nature. And it's within the book of nature of our own self. This is what we do every week in the festival, right? The little bird goes out, and what wisdom is not to keep what is mine for myself. Let me just keep it all to my own. Well, that's not when the master's coming and say, well, seek God. That's not the point in the story. It's that when that bird then loses faith and starts to cry out for help, that then the wind says, well, go within. For lo, peace awaits you in the unknown. But it's a progression, right? It's a directional development of the soul's evolution. And then it becomes even greater. And when the soul then asks in that same story of the festival, where can I find it? And that's when Divine Mother and the Masters answer, seek it within the very depths of your own being. So when we've come to that point, which we all have, this is not to, get all proud about it. Of course not. But we all have come to this point in realizing that that's what we want. And so we can allow that ardor, that magnetism of our soul to be the emissary, to be the light bearer of God, God, God. God bless you.